So, okay. It was nice of Kathy leading us into it because a lot of where I started is from when I was a young kid. But my title of my message today is, why did our country kick God out of the... if I go way back, I'm sure each of you can go way back in your life and find something that you can remember and think it's still like it happened yesterday. When I was in 1957, I gave a message when I first started about when our house fell in the basement and how we spent 7 months with my grandmother so anyway, we stayed at my grandma's house, and when about 7 months after we started, we Christmas Eve in that year, we had a Christmas program at our church, and so Mom and Dad took us to church, and then we thought we were going to go home to Grandma's house, but my Mom and Dad surprised us, and they took us to the house that was already remodeled. When my family walked in, there was nothing on the floor but just wood. There was no couches, no chairs, no nothing. But when we walked around the dining room door, there sat a beautiful Christmas tree and presents. And we all sat around and sang Christmas carols. And we all got together and went to bed together at night in our new remodeled home. I went back there to show you how different and how much God has been moved out of our house and out of our church. Churches are disappearing, and how what we once had, we don't longer have. When I was, as long as I can remember when I was growing up, we always had Sundays, Wednesdays, that was church night. Nothing else was involved, but it was always a sacred time. And then when you get to 5th grade, we had what they call release time class, where we got to go to our church that we went to, and our pastor got to teach us a Bible class. And so we went along, but now everything has disappeared. When I was growing up, we had like 7 different churches in our town of about 2,100, and now we're down to 4 churches, and they're all down to about half what they used to be. And what was always so special to me was every Christmas, each one of the churches had got together and they would put out a nativity sign set for everybody to see, to kind of tell everybody who we were. Everything just kind of got where it was going downhill, where church was the second thought of everybody's life, just about. And I used to drive for a living. I used to drive all over the eastern half of the United States. And I was down in Alabama one time, and I heard on the radio where a guy was suing the courthouse, and I can't remember what city it was, but it was in Alabama, for the display of the 10 Commandments. And I thought to myself, well, that's crazy. Everybody knows the 10 Commandments. What would be offensive to that? Well, surprisingly, he won his case. And as you see, pretty soon, all across the country where people were suing the government's buildings for displaying the 10 Commandments. So they would all be pulled out of everything that's public. You can't have 10 Commandments in the schools. Everything's gone. And finally, I heard Louisiana and Arkansas, the governors now have signed bills to put the 10 Commandments back in the libraries, back in the schools. And I remember my daughter, I was an old man when I had my daughter, but she's just 25 now, but when she was in high school, she had a bunch of our kids that went to our church that we were going to, and they would get together every morning by the flagpole and pray. And Abby came home one night, she said, I got in trouble today at school, Dad. I said, what were you doing? We were praying at the pole. We can't do that anymore. It's just that everything has gone the last few years. Just the government's taken God out of everything. I found a Bible verse, and Betsy and I found a Bible verse. In 2 Timothy 1 through 5. I want you to listen and see if this sounds familiar to you. That last days of the previous times shall come, where men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemies, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, without natural affection, truth breakers, false accusers, no self-control, fierce, despisers of those that are good, traitors, high-minded, lovers of pleasure more than lovers of God, have the form of goodness, but denying the power thereof, from such turn away. It's just, if that's not our American housing right now, and I remember when my 9th grade teacher taught us about the Declaration of Independence, how when the men wrote the Declaration of Independence, it had more about God to do in it than it did about the people of America. I've already mentioned my youngest daughter, Abby, when she was in school, she called and told me that she had a concert on Wednesday night, and I reminded her, well, isn't that church night? Yeah, but she said it was the only free time on the school's calendar. So would they take away God? One Sunday morning when I went to pick up Abby to go to church, I was flabbergasted. I took a back way past to get her, and there's 6 soccer fields that they had built in O'Fallon, Illinois, that were packed full. I mean, there wasn't a field that was empty, full of kids. I always hear the question, what's happened to our kids? Well, in that case, I would say their parents have taken their kids away from God. And most of the time, not all the time, they're so disrespectful and so appreciative of what they have, and the discipline is just outrageous. And I'm sure every one of you have heard this verse of the Bible. It's Proverbs 22:6. Train up a child in the way that he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. You know, I guess I really shouldn't be surprised, because if you go way back to Adam and Eve in the Bible, they had everything they wanted but one tree. They walked with God daily, but they listened to one stray voice and they lost everything. The same way with the people at Noah's time. It took Noah how many years to build it, and he kept preaching to them, you need to repent, you need to ask for forgiveness, and they just kept blowing them off. And what did they do? What did they end up with? They lost everything, their lives and everything, and all that was left was 8 people. And they started over again, and right away they sinned. It's just unreal. God brought the children of Israel out of Egypt with a strong hand. He parted the Red Sea for their escape. They provided food and water and whatever they needed in the wilderness for 40 years. But when it comes to crossing over to the Promised Land, the children, they voted and they couldn't do it. They didn't trust God to have their backs. And what happened to them? They walked some more time in the wilderness, and only two of them, Caleb and Joshua, entered the Promised Land that everybody else forfeited just because they didn't believe in the Lord. In John 3:36, he that believeth on the Son hath everlasting life, and he that believeth not the Son shall not see life, but the wrath of God abideth on him. All God asks us for is to believe and trust in him and give your life to him. In closing, I've already touched this on this one spot once before, but when I hear people say, what is wrong with our kids nowadays? Where was God when this happened or that happened in the world? My answer is simple. My God has kicked God out. And there is no right, no wrong. Everything is whatever feels good to you. In 2 Corinthians 4:4, in whom the gods of this world hath blinded the minds of them which believe not, lest the light of the glorious gospel of Christ, who in the image of God, should shine on them. We have a ministry card that we send out to the shut-ins and to the nursing home people. And this month's was in James 4:8. It reminds me what we need to do is draw closer to God, and God will draw closer to you. In ending, I go to the 2 Chronicles 7:14. If my people whom are called by my name, that humble themselves and pray and seek my face, and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and forgive their sins and will heal their land. I thank you for your time, and I hope this touched you. God gave me this word, and I tried to change it, but I couldn't. And so I hope this hits the spot for someone. Thank you.